Recording.
All right. Welcome back, children. Today we're going to cover training at home. Homemade equipment, home-based training, $0 invested. Near $0. Negligible money invested. Weight plates are expensive. This home-based training is based off the bungee cords you get from Walmart, Lowe's, Tractor Supply, Harbor Freight. They're just a black rubber cord. Has an S-hook at each end. There is a difference in brands, and if you got time to look, this is a 31-inch band, and the brand name is Hold, H-O-L-D hyphen Zit, Z-I-T, pretty gross, Hold Zit. They're stretchy in the fact that they snap back quick. Some of the cheaper bands don't have this ridge, and you pull them apart, then they retract real slow. Avoid those if you can. But this is all about saving money, so if you can't avoid it, don't avoid it. First thing we need to know, because we're going to be doing max day, speed day, we need to know how much weight we're pulling. Don't know how much weight it takes to pull this. I do, because I've taken the time to measure them. I know exactly what this band pulls at 14 inches because I measured it. How I measured it is, I know crane scales are popular. I got one to Tractor Supply and got a very cheap 100-pound scale. I hooked a carabiner up to the chain 14 inches longer than what the rubber band is. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this, I'm going to stretch the strap 14 inches, measure the weight on the scale. And pretty simple. I just pull it down, the strap gets tight, and you will see that it's probably 45 to 50 pounds. If I do it, I'll do it a couple of different times. It doesn't always measure the same because I don't always pull it to the exact same spot, but it will consistently be 45 to 50 pounds. We'll call it 47 pounds of strap. Or if you just want the math to be easier, call it 45 pounds. It's a little more than that, but it's not a public gym. You're not comparing your absolute numbers. We want progress, not perfection. Don't really care what the absolute value is. We just care that we're pulling more each time. So, we now know what the straps pull at. So now all we gotta do is hook them up and start training. So, what we did is I took a chain with a carabiner on it, wrapped it around the bracket that holds the garage door and around the rod that holds the retracting springs for the garage door. That bracket is anchored with 3 lag bolts into the wall. Each lag bolt's probably good for 150 to 400 pounds. We're gonna pull, I know you arm wrestlers think you're really a lot stronger than you are, but in reality, we're probably pulling 150 pounds. So 1 lag bolt's enough, 3's overkill. We will very simply take one of our handles, again, almost no money invested, hook it up to our band, and from here, it's a simple matter of we're now basically approximating arm wrestling with 1 band. So this is 47 pounds, right? Right here, this simulates pulling pad to pad. I could very easily spin this whole thing around or get in here, do some side pressure to simulate peg to peg, okay? What you will find is at 50 pounds, it don't matter. This will need to be anchored to the floor. I've covered that in other videos. The simplest way is if you can tie it to a wall or stack some weight on this or get a hammer drill, drill a couple holes in the floor, put some split anchors in there that you can attach an eye bolt, remove the eye bolt so you're not tripping over it. The table itself, basically 0 money invested. 2 sawhorses, scrap lumber, milk crate, ratchet the milk crate down, Little piece of cardboard on top of that, just because this thing has a big ridge on it. Very inexpensive. The sawhorses, you don't invest in. If you don't have sawhorses, arm wrestling, homemade arm wrestling might not be for you. Anchor this to the ground, it will make you a lot happier. So, we know what our bands weigh, we got a way to anchor it, we got a table. In order to do speed day, volume day, max day, we need a family of vectors, and then we just need to start manipulating the weight. I should have covered it earlier. Obviously, you can stack the bands in parallel. One band we'll just call it 45 pounds. 2 bands is 90 pounds. Hook them in parallel. Hook them up to your carabiner. Good to go. All right. So now we need vectors. The conjugate method, we want at least 6, usually around 12. And because you need to max out on something different every day. Your basic go-to all-around handle will be the wrist wrench. Okay, pretty simple design. It's a pipe. You wrap the strap around it, in this case, so when you are arm wrestling this way, it's trying to roll your hand out. All right, it's trying to this way. This just happens to be a metal one because I had metal pipe. It is 3 3/8 inches in diameter. It is 8 3/4 inches long. There is nothing specific about that. The 8 3/4 was just because it gave me room to grab it with my hand and left me enough room on either side to wrap the band around it. There are commercially available wrist wrenches out there. Feel free to buy one if you have the money. There's a couple of design variations in them that these are my preferences. You'll notice my wrist wrench does not have a bar across it where you hook the carabiner to 3 locations. I purposely do not want that. I like my wrist wrench to not have the bar because when you're pulling, you can rotate that handle. With that bar, when it goes to rotate, it produces slack in one side of it than the other. Don't like that. To me, it feels very uncomfortable. If you like it, I'm not trying to yuck on your yum, but I prefer this. You like the bar across the top of it, that's all you. I'm not, there's no judgment there. You go with it. Other wrist wrenches have, instead, oh, I didn't cover this. To attach the strap, I slice the bar there, tied a knot in the strap, and just fed it through the slot. So it's just this knot coming in there. Some wrist wrenches are made to where the strap comes out across the back and down again. And so some wrist wrenches kind of have, let me simulate it, but there's like a strap that goes around the back of the wrist wrench and people are putting their hands in there. If your wrist wrench has a strap, now I am yucking on your yum. If you like doing that, stop doing that. That is not helping you. That allows you to get that strap tight, completely lose your hand, and still pull on the wrist wrench. The whole purpose of the wrist wrench is to force you to cup your hand, relax your fingers, and control it. You strap your hand across the back of it like that, your finger can be completely open and you can pull on it. Defeats the whole purpose of doing a wrist wrench, right? If you're going to tie your hand to it, you might just as well take a strap and wrap it around your hand to the weight and just take your hand completely out of it. I know I'm not famous for training my hands, but for crying out loud, don't put that, I don't know what you'd even call that, the crutch strap across your wrist wrench. Oh, but Uncle Todd, I put that strap across the back of my hand to train for pulling in the straps for reels. No, you don't. You're putting your hand in that strap because it's there and you didn't know any better. If you want to train, prepare for strap matches. Uncle Todd's got you covered there. Hold on. This is a weird time of the year where you start out in a hoodie and you end up in a t-shirt. All right. You want to train in the straps with your wrist wrench, and I do. Very simple. Get the normal wrist straps, normal powerlifting wrist straps, or they're cheap, you know. We don't lift weights with them, but go ahead and put your wrist strap on. Because when you're in the straps, you're not pulling through the strap that's on the back of your hand anyways. You're pulling from this part of the strap that goes around your wrist. As an aside, does the buckle side matter in a strap match? I won't force you to answer this. There's videos that answer that. But, so at this point, now you grab the wrist wrench normally, take your wrist strap, put that underneath your hand. Now, your wrist wrench is still trying to open your hand up, so that's real, but you now have the strap around your wrist, which is where you pull from in the straps anyway. So at this point, you could actually simulate pulling at this point. I have my, let me just get this a little tighter. So I still control the wrist wrench, but if I lose it, I'm not pulling from the strap on the back of my hand. I'm pulling from where the wrist wrap is around my wrist. And this is where it allows you, my wrist wrench allows me to rotate that if I wanted to, or simulate being completely like, oh. This is what happens when you arm wrestle that mask. Your hand's all busted out like this, but you can still pull, okay? But if you're strong and you got a good hand, you can still control it and still pull through the straps. Any questions on the wrist wrench? Okay, I see you with your hands up in the back. Okay, I covered this earlier. No, I don't like the bar across it. But I'm not going to yuck on your yum if you like the bar. I don't like it, you might like it. The strap across the back, that's terrible. If your wrist wrench has that, put your hand over the top of it, don't put your hand through it. This is 3/8 inch in diameter. To me, it feels like what Jerry Catarat and John Brazine's hands feel like. It feels like a super heavyweight's hand to me. But if you are in a smaller weight class, you could build one out of a smaller one. And a matter of fact, you should have at least 2 sizes of wrist wrench anyways, because that would count as 2 vectors. Why 2? Well, first, wrist wrench, peg to peg is a vector, and wrist wrench, pad to pad is a vector. So with one handle, I've got 2 vectors for max day already. If you wanted to, add the wrist wrap to 2 of them, you now have 4. One handle, 4 vectors. See that? We've got almost 0 money invested. You did have to buy the scale, but theoretically, you could take your bands into Tractor Supply, put the scale on the shelf, measure all your bands, don't buy the scale. Okay, so right at this point, the only thing we've actually purchased was bungee cords. Oh, but you bought the chain. It doesn't have to be a chain. That could have been a piece of rope that you have laying around or an old extension cord. Oh, but ratchet straps. If you don't have ratchet straps, homemade arm wrestling isn't for you. So I expect you to own a few things. What do you think? Oh, but Uncle Todd, your scale's not calibrated. Yeah, no shit. It also said 47 pounds when I counted it as 45. That covers it. Okay, wrist wrench number 1, wrist straps. Another wrist wrench. This one's a little longer. I thought I was going to do it with 2 hands. I do not like this one. It's too long. I should make another one shorter, but the fact of the matter is, I've got this one. I never use it, so I never remodeled it. PVC pipe, construction is the same. Sliced it, knotted the nylon strap, slid the strap in there, the knot just holds it in. This one is 2 1/4 inches in diameter and a little over 12 1/4 inches long. So how many inches should I cut off this to make it right? That's right, you in the back, 4 inches. About 100 millimeters, you metric music fools. Okay, so 2 wrist wrenches, 2 table positions, that's 4 vectors, add the wrist straps, that adds another 1, 2, 3, 4, so now we're up to 8 vectors. But like I said, I don't use this, so I don't count this one. Your other go-to handle, after you build a wrist wrench, you're going to have to build a multi-spinner. The multi-spinner is basically half a wrist wrench, but it's way more versatile. It's half a wrist wrench and it's twice as useful. Once again, it's a piece of PVC pipe. Might be the same pipe that I cut the other wrist wrench out of. 2 1/4 inches in diameter. This is 8 3/8 inches long. Once again, I grabbed the pipe, put a Sharpie on it, and cut it to what felt right. A multi-spinner is a wrist wrench with the strap attached to one end, as opposed to a wrist wrench, if you remember, had the strap at both sides. This one, I just slid a cap over it. What happens with a multi-spinner, unlike a wrist wrench, since it's only on one side, when you pull, it can go this way, and when that happens, it usually rips it right out of your hand. And if you're under any kind of weight, 70, 80 plus pounds, and that flies out of your hand, it gets pretty dangerous. This cap just slides on. It doesn't prevent that from happening, but it gives you a little warning. So now, when you wrap the multi-spinner up, you have a little warning before it goes. It grabs that strap just a little bit. This is why multi-spinners are half the wrist wrench, twice as useful. Okay, I can use my multi-spinner in a pronating motion, which is why I think they were invented. But I will tell you what, you flipped it over to a supinating position, okay, and you will find you haven't been training your elbow solid. You've been training your top roll and your hook good enough. This right here hits that elbow. It makes experienced elbows feel like beginning elbows. So this motion needs to be trained. Once again, multi-spinner, you can practice pad to pad pulling, or spin your table around or step over to the side and practice peg to peg moving. Okay? So, pad to peg, supinated, and pronated. So it's 2 for pronating, 2 for supinating. That's 4 vectors. Add the wrist straps to it, adds another 4. So you got like 8 right there. Another version of a multi-spinner, which I loved at one time, then I hated, then I fell out of love, and now I'm falling back into love. Multi-spinner built out of a 2x4. And what are the dimensions on a 2x4? I don't need that. I'm not asking you people who actually own sawhorses. That's correct. It's 1 3/4 by 3. This one's 3 3/8. I expect it to be 3 1/2. It's a 2x4 when it's rough cut. By the time you finish it, it cuts down to, I thought it cut down to 1 1/2 by 3 1/2, but then they dry and expand with moisture and stuff. This one is, I sanded a little notch in it because when I when I built it, I thought I'd put my thumb there, but it's 2x4, you wrap it up, and this does everything your multi-spinner did, except it forces you to, this is how I grip it. I grip it with my thumb on top. It holds your fingers flat instead of cupped. Now, you can cup it here on the small side, and then it's just it's another version of a multi-spinner. Or you can grab it this way, and it puts your hands it puts your fingers in a different position. Full disclosure, I was trained training like this for a while, and I started getting pains in the back of my hand, and I think I was just overstressing these fingers. That's when I fell out of love. I've since come back to this because rumor has it that I'm working on top rolling, and I use lighter weights to protect this part of my hand. So now, you go, Uncle Todd, what's the greatest handle ever? Well, it's obviously this, because it's a multi-spinner. So you got pronated, and now this one has a right and a left-hand version. Because I got, just so you know, I built right-handed and left-handed versions. This one actually says right on it. But for the purposes of this video, okay, you got all the typical multi-spinner, right? So I can grab the multi-spinner on the narrow side, I can pronate it, I can grab the multi-spinner on the narrow side, and I can supinate it. I can grab the multi-spinner on the long side, pronate it. Do you see where I'm going? Can you guess what I'm about to say next? Yeah, you know. Grab it on the long side, supinate it. 2 supinations, 2 pronations, that's 4. That's 4 going pad to pad. Peg to peg is another 4. 8 vectors without even adding the wrist strap. So that's 8, and then I'd add another 4, that's 12. So, you know what? Having vectors to do the conjugate system for arm wrestling, very free. What I'm in, oh, Uncle Todd, those carabiners cost money. These are the Skittles colored carabiners at Lowe's or Home Depot. They are not the highly, I think these are rated for like 40 pounds. And they do eventually open up, which is pretty cool. Like this one doesn't even close anymore because it got damaged. Eventually they'll open up and they won't latch anymore. They're just aluminum, they're not rated for anything, but they'll last for here. Whenever I'm in Lowe's or Home Depot, I grab a handful of these, whether I need them or not, and if nothing else, they're my extension cords are hanging up with this, my fishing poles are being hung up with this. These things, I attach these things everywhere. So I just add them to the handle. So nylon straps, you got those anyways. If you live anywhere like I do, your ratchet straps eventually rust out. Don't throw it away. Keep the nylon strap, build your handles on it. So, 2 wrist wrenches, 2 multi-spinners, table. Got almost nothing invested in this whole thing so far. So, surely the payoff of all those free t-shirts is a money-making proposal for you now. Alright, so at this point you're saying, wow, that video was worth every penny I spent watching it. Thank you, Uncle Todd. I'm not done yet. Who says, I have so much more to teach you. This started out to be a version of a multi-spinner. I don't even know what it's called anymore. This is just a skinny pipe. It's PVC. It is 1 inch in diameter, 25.4 millimeters, and 6.5 inches long. And it just has, this is actually one of the nylon straps I use to add extra weight to my pin stack. So my pin stack goes by 10. If I want to add a 2.5 pound plate or a 5 pound plate, I loop it through here and hang it on my pin stack. But for the purposes of this video, we just feed that thing through here. And I tried to make a multi-spinner out of it, but it's so short in diameter, it doesn't actually spin, but the multi-spinner doesn't spin anyways. The multi-spinner is the dumbest name I've come across in arm wrestling so far. There's nothing multi about, well, I guess it's multi because you could use it right side up or upside down, but nothing spins. This is just be a straight pronating handle. So you're just grabbing the handle, you can pronate it, you can supinate it. So 2, switch the table twice, you know it, we've covered that ground before. Almost nothing. If you think you have to go buy PVC to make these handles, swing by anybody who's doing any remodeling on the house. There's PVC laying anywhere. You see a new house being constructed, there'll be pipe laying anywhere. I'll bet you there's sections of PVC pipe in the dumpster behind Lowe's because they custom cut some of that stuff and they throw it away. Oh, you're thinking we're done. But we're not. This is something that Travis Bajent showed me. And I'll be honest, when he first talked about it in a seminar, I was skeptical. I was suspicious. Not like, is there really a Bigfoot suspicious, but is he just making stuff up suspicious, or does he actually believe that? So, just your normal arm wrestling strap. Travis teaches in a seminar arm wrestling with a closed fist. Well, this is very nearly a closed, you could grab it just like that, but for the purposes of filming, I think that's distracting. But that's as close to almost as close to a closed fit as you can get without something actually cutting your finger. You've got the ability to pronate that strap and supinate that strap, okay? You probably already have one of these. If you don't, this one you probably should buy. Every arm wrestler should have a strap. Every arm wrestler doesn't need to have a table, but every arm wrestler should have a strap. The last along that line is just a big towel. A bigger towel. This is just 2 dish rags with a big fat carabiner. If you guys have been watching my videos, you've seen me use this plenty of times. Just like the strap, you've got the ability to pronate the towel. These are nicer than the handles because it allows you to squeeze more and allows you to put a lot of pressure on those little fingers and open up your hand to top roll through it. You can also, I'm just trying to get this thing even, supinate it. But what you'll see on my videos, because you got to do more exercises than just arm wrestling exercises. So from here, this is what I'm using when I do my rows, when I do the riser version of my rows, and the supination version of my rows. Okay? We will cover, let's see, is that it for handles? Well, I do believe it is. So later in the video, we will talk about auxiliary exercises. So you got your handles, you got a table, you got a force mechanism to do speed day, max day, volume day. You can follow a body weight training exercise, which is burpees, squats, bear walks, push-ups, sit-ups, that kind of stuff. And there's also kettlebell programs out there. Any questions? Throw them in the comments. Thank you, kids. We're done. You can go into the phone.
Sorry.